Okay, great. We are ready to get started. Thank you all so much for joining us to kick off the inaugural K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. The K-12 BIT Series is a new training initiative to help augment your internal training efforts. Harnessing our community of K-12 Blackboard schools, this series will share top strategies and pedagogy for both increasing teacher efficiency and improving learning outcomes. K-12 BIT is free and easy to participate in and is available to all K-12 teachers, academic leaders, and administrators. So this is the first session ever for our K-12 series, but we are continuing a series that began in higher ed, and there's already been a question posed, so I'm going to address that in just a minute, Stephen. My name is Katie Gallagher. I'm the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Blackboard's LMS Solutions and Explore, and I'll serve as the moderator for the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. I'm always open to new ideas for topics for this series, and please let me know if you're interested in presenting for a future session. My email is katie.gallagher@blackboard.com, and I welcome ideas and presenters. I also wanted to thank Janine Richardson, a Blackboard Learn product expert, and Colleen Smith from our K-12 marketing team, who will be joining us today and over the course of the series to help answer questions in the chat. Okay, so each webinar in this series will be recorded. You can find recordings for this series, and they'll be posted a few days after each session. If you look at the website listed up above, and Colleen, would you be able to type that into the chat for everyone so they can click on it? But this is a playlist under Blackboard as the Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. So Stephen, to go to your question, you can access any past recordings at this link for previous sessions within the larger Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. This is the first session ever of the K-12 series, and so we'll be adding to this playlist as well. So you can access all of the recordings at this link. So in a few days following this presentation, you'll receive an email that includes a link to this presentation, the slides used in this presentation, and you'll receive an invitation to participate in a professional learning community that we've created on course sites that's designed to augment this series and create an avenue for ongoing collaboration and dialogue amongst our K-12 users. All Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series webinars are free and they're open to all. When you go to our website, blackboard.com/bits, you look for our special K-12 icon to help you identify the K-12 specific special sessions. But you're welcome to attend any sessions within any BITS track. There are 4 different tracks. K-12 is one of those. So you are welcome to attend all of those, but the ones designed specifically for K-12 are indicated with that green K-12 logo that you see on this slide. The next session that we're offering is actually outside the BITS program, but I wanted to address it on the call today since it's happening this Wednesday. But this Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, Brad Cook, our Vice President for Product Management for Blackboard Learn, will be introducing our K-12 customers to the Blackboard Learn roadmap, as well as to changes in our Blackboard Learn release cycle. So we hope you can join us again on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Our next K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series session will actually be interactive online lectures on Monday, March 24th at 3:30 Eastern Standard Time with Dina Myers and Christine Davis. So we hope you can join us for each one of the series, and please encourage others at your schools to participate as well. Today, I'm very excited to introduce you to our inaugural speakers for the K-12 BITS series. Today, Rick Roth and Peter Kishpaugh are Exemplary course program winners in K-12, and they're here to discuss the development of their courses from a K-12 perspective, being full-time K-12 teachers themselves, managing the time and dedication it takes to create a K-12 exemplary course, and some aspects of teaching the course online, student interaction, and ongoing course adjustments. Rick and Peter developed the courses for blendedschools.net. Peter is a physics teacher from the Altoona Area School District in Altoona, Pennsylvania. He's been in education for 6 years and has developed 2 online physics courses for blendedschools.net. He was a 2013 recipient of the Exemplary Course Award. Rick is a mathematics teacher of 17 years and currently teaches in the North Hills School District in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He's worked as a consultant developing mathematics and science courses for blendedschools.net, and he's also been integral in the development and implementation of the Online Academy in North Hills School District. Rick is also an Apple certified trainer for the productivity applications that Apple brings to the classroom. And he trains educators on technology, both online and face-to-face throughout the state of Pennsylvania. One of his most popular courses, Apps and iPads in the K-12 classroom, is currently being offered through the Allegheny Intermediate Unit and Beaver Valley Intermediate Units. So very excited to welcome both Peter and Rick today. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Peter. So we'll transfer controls to Peter, and then Peter will shift to Rick later in the presentation. So thank you everyone for joining us today. We'll be available to answer questions in the chat during the presentation. Thank you, Peter.
Welcome everyone. Thanks for having me. I'm going to do the first part of this. Rick you feel free to join in at any time, Rick, if you have anything to add. Rick's definitely going to do some stuff here later in the presentation. What I'm going to cover here is just kind of building a course within Blackboard, and what I'd like you to do, and you don't have to write these down, if you could actually put these into the chat. If you could just put like a strength or a weakness into the chat of what you think a strength or a weakness of an online learner is. Okay, yeah, some of these that are coming in are really, really nice. I like these. Undisciplined, yeah. Yeah, access to technology. They're very. Some of them are very self-motivated or focused. They have good organizational skills. I'm seeing that one of the weaknesses is that they don't work very well independently, such as an alternative ed situation. So, you know, basically what I'm asking with this type of question is every type of online learner is really going to be different. And when you're building a course, you need to think about all the different types of online learners that you may have. I know that I use my online course at my school district in a way to help students that really the regular education classroom doesn't work for them, maybe because of illness, some type of medical situation, or because of you know, their attendance, or maybe they were pregnant or something like that. And then I know that a lot of other schools may use them to supplement the curriculum that they can't offer at their school for whatever the reason is. So there's a lot of different online learners out there with different skills, different strengths, and obviously different obstacles to overcome. So you really need to first think about the student so that you can student-center it, and then kind of build around that idea. So the keys to building a quality course that I found, and by no means are these the only keys. These are just some of the keys that I've come up with that really helped me in developing the 2 courses that I've developed, is the backwards design thought process, where you kind of start with the end result and build everything off of that. You come up with this big idea, what do you want them to know, and then you build your activities around that, rather than building, you know, coming up with really cool activities and then trying to make them fit what you want them to know or what you want them to end up learning. And I came up with this little 4 C's thing, and it's called, the 4 C's are related to creativity, clarity, continuity, and consistency. And I'll be talking about those as I go through here. And then the last thing is that I like to always think that, with online courses, depending on how they're being used, you're not necessarily going to be, a teacher like you are in the brick and mortar situation. You're more of a facilitator. You communicate through emails. You do a lot of troubleshooting, and you need to remember that these courses need to stand alone because there are going to be fewer teachable moments for the teacher to address. So you hope that your course has teachable moments built into it. And then you also need to reward rigor and effort because in the classroom we do that all the time. We give participation points or we give effort points because that's a lot about what learning is giving effort and kind of learning from your mistakes and making corrections and getting better. So we need to do that on the online course as well. So backwards design is I'll just do this very briefly for those of you that may not be familiar with it. You need to figure out the overall goal of the course. What do you want them to learn? So in a physics class that may be covering mechanics, I'm going to decide that I want them to leave knowing Newton's 3 laws, and I want them to know the law of conservation of energy and the law of conservation of momentum. And then I kind of build around how can I make activities that build towards that bigger goal. Enduring understandings are what do you want them to learn each unit? What are the big ideas of each unit for the kid to leave with? How is this relevant to their everyday life? It's kind of a snapshot of the bigger picture, of the overall goal of the course. And then for each lesson, or every couple lessons, you want to come up with essential questions, and this is the most important concept that is going to be covered. And these concepts and these questions need to support the enduring understanding at all points. So they always need to tie back to this big idea. Good essential questions are questions that have an objective, a qualitative value to them, something that can be measured. Evaluation and assessment. This is probably the one thing that is sometimes difficult with online, or I found with my course, it was very difficult to evaluate, did they learn or did they not learn the big idea. And when you're doing this, you want to have a whole bunch of different ways. Just like you would in the classroom, you want to have some formative assessments, homeworks, quizzes, activities, discussions. You could have wikis, you could have journals that are a little bit more open-ended. You may grade on participation or completion. You may grade on right or wrong. It just depends on what type of formative assessment you're using. And then, of course, you want to have a summative assessment that forces the student to really dig in, make sure that they know and learned the overall goal of the lesson, the unit, or the course in general. And this is all about demonstrating the concepts and skills that they learned. One of the things that blended schools had Rick and I both do is we had to make these really cool grasp projects. And these were projects that really were real-world related, and it had the student physically make a project that utilized the big understanding of the unit. So I found those to be very, very helpful, and I still find them to be very, very helpful in letting the kids really kind of put their own twist on what they're learning. Creativity, multiple delivery methods. Always be creative here. Presentations, PowerPoints, videos. Prezi presentations are pretty big right now. If you're able to do those, try to get those into your Blackboard course. Online articles are always relevant. One thing that I always warn you about with this is that sometimes online articles disappear over time. So this is something you'll have to constantly update, and you'll want to put in things that are relevant. The other thing about online articles is watch out for ads too, because right now ads are all over the free websites, even some of the educational websites, and sometimes those ads lead to other websites that really aren't beneficial for the kids. And being a science teacher, my favorite thing was always putting in interactive websites. It's always been a challenge to come up with, how do they do a lab without actually being in a classroom or in a lab setting. So there are some really good simulations and applets out there. Even some of the online games out there are really beneficial to allowing the kids to kind of have some fun with it, kind of be hands-on. And always remember that in your classroom, you're always going to try to make various examples that are relevant to all learners. So try to make sure that you're pulling from different types of examples, because you just don't know what type of learners you're going to have. Let's see here. Multiple opportunities for practice and feedback. Once again, making sure that you have discussions, journals, wikis, blogs, different types of activities, crosswords, word searches, practice problems. This gets the kids learning the vocabulary. It gets them using the equations, if that's your subject content. It gets them communicating with one another as well. Discussions are probably my favorite, because you can see the kids interact and bounce ideas off of one another. I really, really like discussions, wikis, blogs. They're all really, really good stuff. Clarity. When you're making your presentation, you have to remember that a student can't raise their hand right then and there every single time. So you're going to want to make sure that your presentations are very clear and that you leave no stone unturned, for lack of a better phrase. Basically, cover every point in detail as best as you possibly can, so that the course and the content of your course can stand alone. And then students can ask questions if need be through email, or maybe it's an online situation like we have here going on, where they're actually in the room as you're presenting. It just depends on how you choose to use Blackboard. Direct. Be very stay in line with your curriculum. Don't try to throw a whole bunch of curveballs, because unfortunately you're going to have to fix any type of straying that the student might do away from the concept. And sometimes that's a good thing, but sometimes that can be a very bad thing that can lead to a lot of misunderstandings and not proper understanding of the content. Concise and to the point is what I have found to be the best line or best direction that I've had, that I've been able to use. Specific directions on how to complete assignments. This is huge. A lot of the times, online courses are difficult for students because they don't know what they're actually being asked to do. So it could be, they don't know when the due date is. They don't know what the expectations of the lesson are or the assignments, or maybe they don't know how long it's supposed to be, if it's supposed to be a paragraph answer, if it's supposed to be a bulleted answer, if it's supposed to be a full paper, where to upload it, where to turn it in, where to find information. You want to make sure that you just cover all of these points, because once again, it just leads to more questions from the students that you'll have to answer through email, which, like I said, is not always a problem. But if you can limit those questions, you're really enabling the kid to kind of be independent and ask questions of more significance to the understanding of the content, not how.
Can I jump in there with you, Peter?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, this is Rick, everybody. Thanks for coming in. Especially in teaching online classes, I've just found that communicating weekly, at least an email announcement a week to the class to give them due dates. We used to put in very complicated and detailed pacing guides, but we found that we had to send an email every week anyway to let the kids know this is what's due by the end of this week. Get it done in terms of facilitating the online class. constant communication with them it's just become very important as I'm teaching them now. It's at least that one email a week to give them a due date. Sorry, Peter. Thank you.
No, that's great, Rick. That's a great point. Sometimes I actually see the kids weekly. They come in once a week to meet with me. But if you're teaching like remotely, like Rick is, I absolutely agree. You have to put in, a weekly announcement, and you have to constantly be communicating. And that's one of the biggest points to online education. You can have the best course in the world. Communication, if you don't have that, you can forget the course having any success. So thanks, Rick. Continuity from lesson to lesson, unit to unit. Just make sure that your sequencing of topics needs to be thought out ahead of time, that there's a rational progression, and that your sequencing stays in line with your overall goal. Yeah, just like in the classroom. If you're jumping all over the place, students aren't going to see the relevance or the connection from one topic to the next, and that's going to make things very difficult, especially in like in a science class where things kind of build upon each topic kind of builds upon the other topic that was previously taught. I've just noticed that I can't talk about acceleration if I haven't talked about velocity. I can't talk about force if I haven't talked about acceleration. So just make sure that you're in line with your overall goal there. And then I love to have pertinent examples. I know I've talked about that a little bit already, but whatever your examples are, whatever you're teaching, make sure that they relate directly to the concept being taught. So make practice problems worth it. Don't give them, a billion practice problems to do that are just like busy work. Give them relevant practice problems that will help them be successful on the test that you've created. And then websites and simulations, make sure that they're interesting to today's learner. I had a kid one time, I tried to make them online watch a movie from like 1980s, and it just didn't work. Like, they had no interest in that. And that the kid, said to me, says, Mr. Kishpaugh, I can't even stay awake for this. And then I was like, well, I agree. I guess, a high school student probably would not stay. So I had to come up with some other ways to reach that student. Consistency, just make sure that you're consistent in your language and your structure, your vocabulary, your symbols, your note-taking techniques, problem-solving techniques. Make sure that they're all the same so that the kid can get used to a certain type of expectation and a procedure of how the course is going to be laid out from unit to unit, and from course to course. If you're able to do that, then that will give them some consistency with what to expect. Follow the format process outlined in Blackboard. So, use the discussions, use the journal that they have there, and things will go a lot smoother for you. So, and I always, these three things are really the things that helped me. And Rick, if you have anything to add, feel free to jump in. But there are fewer teachable moments online that the teacher can give. So you try to build those into your course for the student to come up with or to experience on their own. Delayed troubleshooting. As much as communication is key, the kid can't just raise their hand and get you to solve their problem in the next 5 minutes. It's going to require an email. It's going to require, some type of email communication probably until you get back to them, and that takes time. And then reward rigor and effort. If the kid's working hard, have it built into your course that they are rewarded with activities and assignments that promote effort. You want to make sure that they're getting the content, but you also want to make sure that you're promoting their confidence as well. So, Rick, that's the last slide that I have. If you have anything to add to this, that's great. Otherwise, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, everybody, is I'm just going to go through and kind of elaborate on a lot of the things that Peter was saying. But I'm just going to go through my geometry course a little bit and just show you how we structured it, and just some things that we were thinking about as we were developing the course. So if Pauline, if you could give me just give me control here that I could share my desktop here, and we'll make sure everybody can see it first. Okay. So can everybody, we see my geometry course right now? Is that coming up yet?
Rick, it starts, oh, now I see it.
Yeah, it should be coming in any second. Okay.
Yep.
There we go. Just took a minute. Everybody, I'm on a slow computer. Can we see enough of it? Can we see is it making sense, or is it too close, everybody?
Yeah, no, we can see Unit 1, and then as you scroll through the components of Unit 1, it's only using part of the screen, but I know you're sharing your entire screen. We discussed that in the practice, so I think you're good.
Okay, so if something doesn't make sense, just please jump in on me. You know, we have our basic class information and everything, and I'm not going to go through that in the introduction. This is just a sample of my geometry course. And the basic structure of the unit is we'll start with the unit overview, with the big idea that Peter was talking about. And then what we do with the project, we kind of introduce the graphs project here at the beginning just to get them to start to think about it. And then at the end of the unit is where they complete their unit assessment with that graphs project. So since he already mentioned it, I'm going to click into that unit assessment folder here. And what we do with the graphs project is go for something that has give them a goal, a role, an audience, standards and criteria for success, and a product. I usually try to include it like an image or something that's more motivational than that one looks like there, along with the regular unit test at the end of the project. And then we of course give them a rubric to follow for that. I'm going to go back into Unit 1. And I'm going to go through this pretty fast, and then because I want to leave it open for questions at the end. We link out to StudyMate for unit vocabulary and for vocabulary within the lesson. So this allows the kids, this is blended schools format here that we use, where every unit is going to have unit vocabulary, and we link out to StudyMate, and my computer is not going to do that very well right now. So I'm not going to click into that link. Each lesson we put within Blackboard within folders, and these are where the essential questions come in. Okay, the essential questions that we hope that they can answer by the end of completing that lesson. Okay, I'm going to click into Lesson 1 here. And what we started to do new at Blended Schools over the last couple of years is put much of the lesson content within SoftChalk, and we build it within SoftChalk. And then put it as a SoftChalk Score Center item into the class. Now this will show you the bulk of the lesson, and I'm going to go into that in a second. But that does link to the Blackboard Grade Center, and it allows you to put some more different kinds of interactive activities into that format. But everything that we have done in here can be done in Blackboard, and we used to do it that way. Blended Schools started to use SoftChalk so they could make changes on a mass basis to their courses within all their Blackboard courses. But on the outside here is our collaborative stuff. In this case, it's a blog where it could be a wiki or a discussion board or anything like that. And we try to get the students to be, a socio-constructive environment from student to student, if we can, but we also have it set that you as the teacher, the facilitator, can make a change into this blog to, let's say you only have one student in the course, which is a lot of times at the beginning of the school year, I have one student in the course, and this has to have a way to stand alone also, but if the opportunity is there for the students to interact with each other like we have here, check out at least one other student's post and leave a positive comment, we try to make it as interactive as possible. Here's where we put our journal, and we would have kids upload a digital copy to their notes into this journal and also answer the essential question, which we hope that they can answer once they click into this lesson. Now, when they click into this lesson, they are going to go into a soft chalk lesson.
Hey, Rick.
Okay, and here's
Katie, do you mind if I interject for just a minute as you navigate to soft chalk?
Go ahead.
I just wanted to ask if the participants in the room, soft chalk is integrated into Blackboard Learn through LTI. So there are lots of other tools and repositories that integrate, and soft chalk is a great example. Explore is another one. So I was just wondering if anyone that's on the call, just so we have a sense, let me clear the feedback results. But can you give me a green check mark if you're using soft chalk or Explore or some other LTI digital content repository that you could perhaps leverage the same integration that Rick is using? Okay, great. So feedback, we've got 12 participants on the call that are using some kind of either soft chalk or Explore, one who's not, actually 13 who are. So Rick, a lot of people are using either soft chalk or something similar to it. So thanks. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, and for those of you that aren't, this basic lesson structure is what we used to do all straight up in Blackboard also. So like this do you know, it was always the essential question. And you can create that just by creating an item in Blackboard. We go to the next part about something motivating, whether it's a question or this is a getting started activity. We used to put, you know, a song if you could find it, or an interesting image. And we would still do that even if we were constructing it totally in Blackboard, but we do this with soft chalk also. Like, here, remember these wooden blocks you played with as a kid? If so, you know, then you've been studying geometry since you were as a child. Now, this is a interactive activity that you can build within soft chalk, where they can click on it and then see the answer. You can do flashcards and different things like that that I'll show in the next lesson. We click here to our vocabulary, which is it's again done, and it links to StudyMate.com. And StudyMate.com just gives them vocabulary words in a few different games. They can put them into a crossword. They can, you know, make flashcards for themselves, similar. So that's the first page of our lesson. That's our start area, and then we go into the learn area, and that's where the note-taking template is. And we give them a note-taking template to download, and I try to choose one for math that you know, gives them a lot of room to write and things like that. We've done, depending on the lesson, different note-taking templates there that they can download. The lesson presentations for my geometry course, I did them all myself. There was a lot of good stuff out there, but for blended schools, they were having some trouble with YouTube and things like that in terms of YouTube links being broken or YouTube being blocked in a lot of schools. So blended schools did their own thing with their own BSN tube, and I found myself creating most of the videos myself for this geometry course. Number one, because I needed to get exactly what I wanted for that particular lesson. So I began the course using just my Smart Notebook files with math, and just recording using a screencasting tool on my computer. By the time the course ended, I was using an iPad, and I was using a couple different apps on the iPad, and Explain Everything. It turned into being my favorite app because I could write on the screen, and I was using that to create a lot of my videos. So I tried to do almost every single lesson using my own videos in there, and just to be more specific as to what the point I wanted to get across. At blended schools, we really try to keep you limited and keep us limited when we're developing courses to 5 minutes and under per concept here. Now, that doesn't mean I couldn't include 2 or 3 videos that are under 5 minutes, but because of the attention of the online learner, we want to keep them 5 and under, even if it takes 2 or 3 videos to get our point across. They go to the practice section then. And this is where, again, in SoftChalk, we created some interactive activities of our own. Click on the image of what the prompt is describing. This is a hotspot question. So click on the non-collinear point, would be point F, and it gives me a little ding and a good job. And you click on the ray there and just make it more interesting for the students. And you could create those all on your own, but we also do want to link out to the internet for some links to some. You can usually find a cool game on anything. I think this is a Quizlet link that I used here, but again, I'm on an old PC right now at school, so I don't know that. I don't want you guys to wait for that website to open up. But I found a good way to search for cool games to put into an online class is whatever concept I'm doing, I kind of start and Google search that concept interactive game. And just using that good type of Google search, usually you come up with something that's free and something that you can link to. And again, like Peter said, watch the ads and that link's not going to be good forever, but you always have to do course maintenance to update your course and keep it updated anyway. I like to put in practice quizzes. This is a very basic lesson here, so it just has 2 of them. But I always like to put in interactive practice quizzes as self-checks for the students before they take the actual quiz at the end of the lesson. And we put a quiz group at the end of there, some true, false, some multiple choice, and for the kids to self-assess. We allow them unlimited attempts on all lessons. That's the default we set it to, is unlimited attempts to all lessons, so they can, have a chance to go back through and maybe re-watch a video and get a better score if they want to. Conclude would end it, and I'm going to go back to our chat area here, and I'm going to stop sharing my desktop at this point. And if we need to again, I'll go back and show you, and they can give me the permission to share it again. But I think right now, Peter and I want to leave it open for questions, unless there's anything that Kay or Colleen that you guys want to say at this point. But we can leave it open for questions now and move on from there.
Yeah, very helpful. Thank you, Rick and Peter, very much. We like to dedicate, at least 10 to 15 minutes at the end for open Q&A. So I'm going to invite the group. We're going to use either the Q&A or the chat, whichever you're more comfortable with, to post questions in the chat. Okay, so the first question is, do you have any limited attempt assessments? I'll start with that one. You can definitely limit the number of attempts on an assessment within Blackboard Learn. Peter, Rick, do you want to speak to it from respect to best practices within your exemplary courses?
I have never had a problem with having it unlimited attempts. Now, the unit exam, I may only give 1 attempt for that. So I customize what I want to give 1 attempt for, and the lessons themselves, we basically, even if there's a practice quiz in there, we basically make everything work points in there. That way they'd be willing to go through. The entire course again if they needed to, or the entire lesson again if they needed to. So now for a unit test, I may only leave that to 1 attempt. I'm dealing with a lot of alternative ed kids we've had a lot of success with these types of kids because they come into the school a couple times a week and sit with their alternative ed teacher, not me. That type of learner, I think it's good to have the unlimited attempts.
Yeah, and I will give a couple examples from personal experience as well. I've been teaching with Blackboard products for about 12 years, both in face-to-face, online, and blended settings. The math department at one school that I was working at, they had a standard policy that they would allow, like on a unit test like you just referred to, Rick, where typically you would maybe only allow 1 attempt. they had a standard policy where if a student wanted to try again, they would allow, but they only allowed one additional attempt. So with Blackboard, you can make it unlimited, or you can specify the number of attempts, and then you can even set the grade book to calculate in the grade in the way that you want. So for example, you may take only the grade of the last attempt, or you take an average of each attempt, and so forth. In my AP Psychology class, I, like Rick, set many of my assessments to unlimited attempts and created a series of practice assessments that built cumulatively over the course of the semester to prepare the students for the AP exam. And I set those to take their highest score, so they weren't penalized. They could take it over and over again to achieve mastery. So
I was just going to add to that. I'm sorry.
Great. No, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say that kind of just goes with the rewarding effort aspect of online education. And I think that's my favorite part about Blackboard and being able to use it, is that you can customize it to however you choose in your classroom or in the course that you're dealing with, how you choose to apply that customization so that it best fits what type of students or what type of course you're teaching.
Yep. So
yeah, I just got a question in the chat about the size of videos. I say 5 minutes or less. Blended Schools has us do it as 5 minutes or less based on the research they've done. And just for your own self, I mean, think of how long you could watch a video. 5 minutes gets to be really long in sitting there at your computer watching a video. It was very challenging to do videos that short, but it really forces you to streamline your teaching and to really pick a very good problem to do as an example, something that's going to cover everything that they might run into, and it's very challenging.
Yeah, I also think that, if you want 20 minutes worth of video, then you make 4 or 5 minute videos, and that way it's more manageable to go back and rewind. When the student needs to see a specific part of it, instead of going back, 10 minutes, they might only have to go back 30 seconds from where the video left off or ended. So yeah, I agree with you on that, Rick.
Some of the pitfalls of online learning, with some of our kids that don't work very well independently, they're not in our alternative ed program. They've just chosen to do online. And when they don't have a lot of support at home, the way we have the most success is by bringing them into the building, at least, maybe the more often the better, really, even though they're online. And, I get to go down and see them and talk to them, look at where they're at. And it's not always possible, but if I know that our alternative ed kids, because they sit with an alternative teacher a couple times, they move. They get their work done. Motivating online learners, it just depends. They're all so different. We do have the motivated ones that travel a lot and then have to be online for that reason, that are very self-directed and independent.
Peter, Rick, I've got a question for you. This is Katie. You've done a great job, outlining what an exemplary course, is made up of and how to effectively manage those. You both teach subjects that some might deem difficult to teach online, geometry and physics. Can you speak to any of the unique challenges that you face teaching those subjects and how you're able to overcome those with Blackboard?
Go ahead, Peter. If you want to go first, go ahead.
Sure. Well, I think the simple fact, I think you hit the nail on the head. Both subjects are very challenging to teach in the classroom, let alone not being able to see your students every minute or every day. I think the biggest challenge I came across was, how do I do labs? And how do I make sure that when they're using the applet or simulation that I chose, that they're not just clicking through this without any value? So that was one challenge that I kind of overcame by using some of the stuff used in SoftChalk, where you can set a limit to what questions the kids can see and when. So they have to answer this question correctly before the next question appears. So I had to like restructure my thinking into a step-by-step process. I had to go through that with every lab that we did, which was rather difficult. I also had to, come up with things that they could do at home with household items, which, safety is an issue with that, and then also being able to availability to those resources is an issue. So that was some challenges, and I think the course, speaks for itself in being able to overcome some of those challenges. But certainly, sometimes it wasn't possible, and you have to just accept that and maybe go a different route. And that's sometimes tough for passionate teachers that really want and believe in a specific activity. You have to open your mind to other activities to overcome that. And then I would just say the other challenge sometimes was just language. Sometimes teaching mathematical language, and Rick, I'm sure you can speak to this, is very, very, it's like a foreign language to the students. So sometimes that was challenging, and you just had to be consistent with it and continuous with it. And I feel like that has proven successful. But yeah, that's a great question.
Two things from a geometry perspective is, number one, as a mathematics person, I think the kids need to see you write. And they need to see you model the writing of solving a mathematics problem. That's very difficult to do with a mouse on a computer. And the iPad brought it in for me that I could write on the screen and create videos that way. The iPad made it a lot easier so that they could actually see me solving the problem. Now, I can create a problem in PowerPoint and then, put a shade over it and show it step by step, and it's still pretty effective. But I actually like them to see me write on the screen. And there's a lot of apps out there. Explain Everything is an app on the iPad that costs about $3. And there's free whiteboard apps such as Show Me and EduCreations. They're free apps that you can use for an iPad. And I think they don't necessarily have to be an iPad. It also works on other tablet devices. The other challenging part of a geometry course was proof. How do you get kids to prove, to prove theorems and things like that? And that was challenging in terms of creating the right type of problems that could still be self-grading. Now, I would definitely want it to be more open-ended in a lot of situations where I would have a kid write a proof, but I also wanted that to be part of the self-grading assessment, where I would do some multiple choice and I would write out an entire proof, leaving out certain spots and have them fill in the blanks. That took me a while to figure out, even though it sounds simple from a geometry perspective, but I wanted to make sure they were getting enough experience with doing proofs, and that's something that that's difficult, from an online perspective anyway.
So Rick, let me make sure I understand, and I just want to reiterate it for the group. You're capturing, like, working out a problem like you would in the face-to-face classroom on a smart board, for example, by writing it out and showing them the work using your iPad. You mentioned a couple different free apps, Show Me and EduCreations, to do that?
Yeah, now that's just on the iPad, and you can make the video itself on your iPad. That's all iPad stuff.
Great.
I said at the beginning of my course, I was using a smart board and a screen capture on my regular PC.
Okay.
And you can do that with a smart board and a screen capture, or you can even use the smart board recorder itself. I stayed away from that because it kind of slowed down my writing. So I just used a regular screencasting tool that was web-based called Screencast-O-Matic, and that can be found at screencast-o-matic.com. And I used that in conjunction with my smartboard lessons until I found the iPad. The iPad, good.
I was just going to ask, do you have your students perhaps also using Show Me or EduCreations to capture work back to you?
That's going to be the future. That's what I'm trying to push for a class set of iPads, and I would use those whiteboard apps. They're basically these basic whiteboard apps, but I would use those if I was in a one-to-one environment and every kid had an iPad. That's what they would do their warm-up problem on. And they could write it themselves. They can create their own videos and upload them to, it doesn't even have to be YouTube. You know, EduCreations has its own website that they can send their videos to, and the iPad itself processes them. And just some new tools that I found actually during development of the course, you know, almost throughout necessity, but, you know, it's the mother of invention.
Right. No, those are great. I haven't heard of those being used before, and that definitely addresses a unique challenge in geometry online. That brings me to one other question, I guess, for Peter. I didn't think of this when you were explaining some of the challenges for physics and labs and things. Speaking to some other districts, I think it was Atlanta Public Schools I was talking to, and they were giving me an example of students doing labs, and they were actually capturing some lab work using video everywhere within Blackboard. So that they could see the student, you know, performing things that they needed to do for the lab. Have you tried that at all with some of your at-home labs that you were describing?
Well, no. I mean, that's like Rick said, that's more of the future. Our school district is moving into having a little bit more than just a basic laptop for the students at home. You know, that is certainly an idea that I like, and in an ideal world, that would be happening already. But we've talked a little bit about having some videos or some webcams with the laptops that the students are currently using, but that just hasn't been approved yet, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, what I've done is I've actually had them document with pictures. So, you know, most kids have a cell phone and are tech savvy. That's one of the strengths that we talked about earlier. And they're able to take pictures of steps along the way that kind of provide proof that, you know, yes, they did, you know, run up and down the stairs to calculate their amount of power that they can generate. So, you know, video would be even better of that. And I guess, I mean, with the cell phones, they can always upload those too. But we just haven't implemented that yet.
Well, thank you both so much for presenting today. Quite a wealth of information that I think participants can take right back to the classroom. So we really appreciate you kicking off the K-12 Blackboard Innovative Teaching Series. I'm going to come back to this one. I want to go back really quickly to upcoming webinars. I hope everyone can join us for our roadmap and release cycle session on Wednesday at 3 Eastern Standard Time. And then, as you can see, we've got the next series of presentations lined up there. You can register for all of those at blackboard.com/bits. And we are really just beginning this series. I can't thank Peter and Rick enough for their expertise today, but we are certainly looking for ideas for presentation topics for the series. You know, challenges that you're dealing with in the classroom right now that would be helpful to you to have a session on. Or if you have an interest in presenting and sharing some best practices from your classroom or your district, we would love to have you. You can reach out to me directly at katie.gallagher@blackboard.com. And I just wanted to thank everyone for your participation today. And thank you, Peter and Rick.
Thank you.
You're welcome. We were glad to do it. Thank you, everybody, for attending.